Now that you're familiar with the basics, I want to take you on a tour to show you some of the main OPNsense features. This is going to be a grab bag of pages and services that you may be interested in exploring further. I'm not going to cover everything in detail. The goal is just to point out some important and interesting options. The first page you've already seen, it's the dashboard. However, I haven't shown you how to customize it yet. You can start editing the widgets by clicking here on the pencil icon. You'll notice all the widgets now have a small X icon in the top right corner. Use this to remove any widgets that you don't want. You can also move widgets around by dragging and dropping them to a new spot. To add a new widget, click on the plus icon here. Then select the widget name from the drop-down. This thermal sensor widget won't show any data until you enable the hardware feature in Settings, which I'll show you in a bit. Let's also add the live log widget. You can even resize certain widgets by dragging their edges like this. As you can see, you can easily customize this page to display the information you're most interested in. Once you're done making your changes, remember to click Save to keep them. Otherwise, if you reload the page, it's going to revert to the previous layout. The next page we'll look at is at System, Settings, Miscellaneous. This allows you to enable some useful hardware-related options. This hardware acceleration can significantly boost the performance of your VPN. A VPN, or Virtual Private Network, allows you to remotely connect to your local network, meaning that you can access services and files at home from anywhere. If your CPU has a built-in crypto chip, then you should enable the corresponding option here. Also, if your CPU has a built-in thermal sensor, you can enable that here. This is why the thermal sensor widget on the dashboard wasn't working before. Next, let's take a look at the power settings. When configured correctly, this can help reduce your power consumption, lower heat generation, minimize fan noise, and extend the lifespan of your hardware. If you have a newer Intel CPU, 6th generation or later, you'll likely want to leave Power D unchecked, as these CPUs already handle power management at the hardware level. However, if you're using older hardware like mine, you'll probably want to turn Power D on. And you may need to experiment a bit to find the best setting. For some users, the electricity savings can be significant. You also get to choose between several power modes. High adaptive provides the best balance. Adaptive is basically the same thing. Minimum will save you the most power. And maximum will give you the highest performance. Now, the last option I want to point out is down here. This will allow you to disable the startup and shutdown sounds. OPNsense plays a small tone, assuming your computer has a built-in speaker, and some people find that annoying. Once you've finished making changes, remember to click on Save. Our next destination is Interfaces, LAN. Here you can make adjustments to your local area network settings. While there are quite a few settings to explore, the main one I want to point out is here. This can be used to modify the IPv4 address range assigned to your local network. Now you might be thinking, why would I change this? Well, the most common reason would be to avoid conflicts. For example, your ISP gateway might already be using 192.168.1.1. Or your work network might overlap with 192.168.1.1/24. Unfortunately, there's no single solution that works for everyone. This is just an inherent limitation of IPv4. Hopefully, we can all make the switch to IPv6 one day. Just remember that changing this value will change the IP address of your OPNsense machine, as well as the entire IP range for all devices on your local network. Now, the subnet mask allows you to adjust the size of your network. The default /24 allows your network to handle about 250 devices, which is more than enough for most people. If you need more, then you'll need to pick a lower number. For example, /20 would support over 4,000 devices. Next, let's look at interfaces, WAN. Here is where you make adjustments to your internet connection. So if you're experiencing issues with your ISP gateway, or if you're using a modem, you may need to tweak some of these settings. Most people will probably want to leave this section alone, but I do want to talk a bit about block private networks and block bogon networks. Both of these options are designed to block private IPs that exist outside of your local network. Now, this is a good security measure, so generally you want to leave these checked. However, if your OPNsense device is not directly connected to the internet, maybe it's behind another router, you might need to uncheck one or both of these options. You also might need to uncheck them if your ISP gateway has a web interface running on a private IP address. Next, let's look at interfaces, assignments. This page allows you to make changes to your OPNsense ports. You can change the port assigned to your LAN interface, or you can change the port assigned to your WAN interface. You can also create a new interface by assigning a new port. You would use this to add a second ISP gateway, create a separate network for guest Wi-Fi, or maybe set up a home lab. Next, we'll look at firewall. This is where you configure OPNsense's powerful firewall, which protects your network from external threats. Firewalls work by creating and enforcing rules that control your network traffic. By default, your OPNsense firewall will block all incoming traffic from the internet and allow all outgoing traffic to the internet. Eventually, though, you'll probably want to create some exceptions. If you're interested in viewing the current rules, go to Firewall Rules. Then pick the interface that you're interested in. As I mentioned, there are already some default rules in effect. For instance, on the LAN interface, you'll see rules that allow connections from any device to any device. But if you wanted, you could add an additional rule to limit or even block access to certain devices. There are also hidden rules that can be found by clicking here. These rules will vary depending on what options you've enabled, and you generally don't need to worry about them. However, it is useful to know that they exist, just in case something isn't working as expected. So, this is where you would create rules for your LAN connection, and this is where you create rules for your WAN connection. There are also floating rules, and these apply to all interfaces. So, when you're eventually ready to start playing around with firewall rules, now you know where to go. Next, let's look at firewall NAT. NAT, or Network Address Translation, allows multiple devices on your network to share a single public IPv4 address in order to connect to the internet. Now, the default configuration should support most basic use cases. However, for advanced scenarios, like say hosting a server on your local network, it can cause issues. So you might eventually need to create one or more NAT rules. For instance, let's say you wanted to host your own public FTP server, which usually uses port 21. If you're using IPv4, incoming requests to port 21 won't know which of your local devices to route to, because all of your devices are using the same public IP. To resolve this, you need to create a NAT port forwarding rule. This rule would tell OPNsense which device on your local network should receive port 21 traffic. If you need to modify your NAT rules, now you know how to find those. Next, we'll look at the VPN options. A VPN allows you to securely access your home devices from the internet, or it can also be used to secure outgoing traffic to a VPN provider. OPNsense supports three main types of connections: IPsec, OpenVPN, and WireGuard. IPsec has been around the longest and is widely supported. OpenVPN has a robust set of features and is very flexible. WireGuard is my personal preference because it's so simple to set up and is incredibly fast. If you're interested in setting up a VPN connection, now you know where to go. Finally, I'm going to show you the community plugins. Plugins are used to add additional features and functionality to OPNsense. Just go to System, Firmware, and then Plugins. This page lists all the plugins available for download. Everything is free, so you can add as many as you like, and they're all extremely easy to install. Here's the plugin name, here's the version number, and this gives a brief description. But you might need to search online to figure out exactly what each plugin does. As an example, ClamAV is an antivirus solution that can protect your network by detecting and blocking infected files, either attached to emails or downloaded from websites. There are other services available, including security engines, debugging tools, the Google Cloud SDK, and even OPNsense themes. An OPNsense theme changes the look and feel of the web interface. Let me show you how to download a plugin. You can search for a particular plugin by typing in here, then once you find the one you're interested in, click on the install icon here. This will download and install it. Now, installing a theme does not automatically activate it. So you need to go to System, Settings, and then General, and then select the new theme name from this drop-down here. Then scroll down and click Save. Now OPNsense will start using your new theme. So as you can see, plugins are an easy way to expand the functionality of your OPNsense machine. And that concludes our tour.